The magic circle engraved on the floor lights up with an ominous glow as a summoning spell is cast. Summoning magic is used to call a monster to your world that is bound to your command in exchange for something the summoned beast desires. A boy states that he was all alone and wanted someone to talk to, so he tried a simple summoning spell, but he was clearly shocked by the results. He ended up summoning something really huge, a dragon demon girl. He looked at her in pure awe and confusion as she cried and moaned on the floor. The boy explains that this seemingly helpless girl sobbing in front of him is apparently an evil dragon that was sealed away for 300 years. After he was able to calm the monster girl down, she started talking about herself. She tells the boy that she is actually a bad dude. Scared for his life, the boy immediately bows down to the monster girl, begging her to spare his life. He is distraught as tears run down his face. He states that summoning such a powerful monster must come with a hefty price, but the girl corrects him, exclaiming that there is no price. Feeling grateful, she states that she has already received more than enough compensation because she managed to escape the seal, even if it's for just a little bit. Her eyes light up with compassion as she says that she finally has someone to talk to after hundreds of years thanks to the boy. The young boy can't believe that such a powerful beast could end up as his familiar for free, and he continues to question her claims. The dragon girl earnestly states that it may seem like it's nothing to the boy, but to her, this is the greatest gift. After being trapped for hundreds of years, being unable to see, hear, or feel anything, she can finally interact with the world freely, and she states that there is no greater treasure for her. She gazes deeply into the eyes of her new master and solemnly proclaims that she will fulfill the pact. She holds out her hand and asks him what it is that he wants: a mountain of treasure reaching the heavens, or forbidden magic to rule over the world. Anything he desires, she will grant. Her deep gaze allows the boy to get a glimpse of the real beast that lies beneath, a colossal dragon with incredible fangs and deadly eyes. The dragon commands him to speak whatever his heart desires. Initially a bit stunned, the boy musters up the courage to state his one and true wish. He states that he just wanted a friend. Surprisingly, the dragon girl bursts into tears at his wish as she exclaims that she also wants a friend, and thus marks the unusual beginning of a totally normal friendship between the two. The boy is still in disbelief about his situation. He can't believe that he has become friends with an evil dragon. The dragon girl laughs without a care, sitting on his sofa as she explains what a soft throne this is. He smiles as he watches her being so silly, sitting on a sofa for the first time. Trying to open up to the dragon girl, the boy tells her that he still can't believe this, explaining that he was told he had no talent for summoning. He says that he never expected that he would be able to summon something so powerful, but the dragon girl cuts him off. She tells him not to get too full of himself as a mere human, explaining that what he summoned was just a small part of her because her true form is far too powerful to materialize by his summoning magic. Curious, the boy asks what her real body is doing right now, and she explains that she left it completely empty. The boy goes quiet, trying to gather his thoughts, and the dragon girl gets worried, thinking that he is mad at her. She tries to ask him what's wrong. Without a second thought, the boy says that because she left her true form behind, doesn't it mean that she has no power as she is now? The dragon girl becomes offended at his inconsiderate comments, and she stands up in anger, exclaiming how insolent the boy is. But surprisingly, she immediately bows down to the boy, stating that he is absolutely right. She says that she lied to him and pretended to be all important, and the boy tries to console her, stating that that's not what he meant. A river of tears run down the supposedly evil dragon as she exclaims that according to what she has heard, if a summoned beast lies to their master, strict limitations are imposed on them. She cries out, yelling that she was worried about it. She timidly asks the boy if he hates her, to which he holds her hand and comforts her by saying that he doesn't hate her at all. She asks him why he is being so generous with her, and he looks away shyly, stating that it's because they are friends. It seems his comforting attempts were completely useless as she bursts into an even more intense cry, and the boy thinks that his new evil dragon friend seems to be a total crybaby. The ordinary human boy and a great dragon beast girl begin to warm up to each other as their friendship starts to flourish. Wanting to get close to him, the dragon girl curiously turns towards her new master and asks for his name as she smiles irresistibly. The boy can't help but comply with her request as he introduces himself as Yuta. She happily memorizes his name and exclaims that she will definitely remember it. As expected, she wants to introduce herself to him in turn, and she tells him to listen closely to her words. She smiles proudly and declares that her name is Mumu. Not getting the reaction she expected, being pure awe and admiration, she turns away in embarrassment, and the boy nervously calls her Mumu-san. The two friends have gained a new level of intimacy and both seem rather flustered about it. The girl's face flushes up with happiness because the boy called her by her true name. She turns to Yuta and says that they are friends, right? So they don't need to use honorifics for each other. She tries to hint that she wants him to frankly call her by her true name without any honorifics. Yuta nervously complies with her request and calls her Mumu. She laughs arrogantly and states that Yuta is lucky to have achieved such a great honor. She recalls her grand dragon form and explains that there has not been anyone else who has said her name without honorifics. Remembering her past experiences, she recalls the innately greedy human nature, exclaiming that he must not be satisfied with this and desire even greater honors. Without warning, Yuta puts his hand on her head and pats her gently. Yuta felt a warmth in his heart as Mumu, the dragon girl, reacted to his touch. He continued to pat her head gently, feeling a sense of connection growing between them. He pats her relentlessly as she complains about how he laid his hands on someone as grand as her. She states that this is so disgraceful for a powerful and grand dragon to be patted on the head by a mere human. Listening to her complaining, Yuta asks her if he should stop, but she immediately starts crying at the suggestion, requesting him to not stop. Yuta realizes that his new dragon friend is kind of dog-like with her clingy and easily satisfied personality. Yuta is getting used to his new life with his dragon friend Mumu. He walks around the house carrying out his daily chores and Mumu follows him around mischievously. She watches him closely as he gets work done when suddenly his phone buzzes and he gets a call. Yuta turns around to find her standing behind him with a menacing smile which obviously disturbs him a little. Yuta wonders about his new predicament. The dragon girl follows him around everywhere and won't leave him alone for a second. His personal space has been completely invaded. He nervously asks Mumu if she finds it enjoyable to stalk him around and she proudly exclaims that it is very fun. The problem is getting out of hand when Mumu relentlessly bangs on the bathroom door yelling for Yuta and asking him what he's up to. He timidly explains that he is using the bathroom, but Mumu is not satisfied as she continues to make a fuss and asks what that even means. Mumu is so amused by this concept that she is rolling on the floor in laughter, stating that humans are so inconvenient. She proudly lays down on the sofa and boasts about her supreme existence, claiming that her form is the most perfect. She has no need to eat food, sleep, or excrete. Even poisons cannot affect her absolute existence. Yuta is awestruck by her unique form of existence and states that that is amazing, and Mumu is eating up all the attention as she is in total agreement with him. Later that night, Mumu walks into Yuta's room hugging her tail and looking like a total damsel in distress. She makes puppy eyes and asks Yuta if she could sleep with him. Yuta is confused at her request as he says that he thought she didn't need to sleep at all. Mumu, embarrassed at her weakness, explains that she spent hundreds of years trapped in total darkness, so she is afraid of the dark. She meekly explains that she can't handle it and starts crying when she thinks Yuta rejected her request, but Yuta reassures her, stating that of course it is okay. Mumu's face completely shifts from tears to a satisfied smile as she clings onto Yuta, wrapping her tail around him as he tries to fall asleep. She obliviously tells Yuta to not worry and get as much rest as he needs. Yuta smiles nervously while being at a total loss for words. He timidly tells her okay, but knows that there's no way he is getting any sleep like this. Mumu laughs mischievously after having her way, and Yuta dejectedly remarks that his new friend doesn't like to be alone. Mumu clings desperately to Yuta's back as she cries and sobs without a care. Teary-eyed, she looks up at Yuta and asks him if he's going to abandon her there all by herself again. Yuta is completely fed up with Mumu's clingy and demanding company and exclaims that he was only going to get the groceries, not abandoning her. Trying to make him stay, Mumu states that the outside world is dangerous, so Yuta should just stay at home with her where he is safe. Her plan totally backfires when Yuta suggests that they go out together. The sun shines brightly as ever as Mumu steps outside under the sky after 300 years. She is completely flustered by the situation as she shivers from head to toe and fails to hide her tears. Looking at her discomfort, Yuta asks Mumu if she's doing okay, and she tries to play it off, asking him what he is talking about, but her shaking legs are clearly visible. Before Yuta can try to calm her down, Mumu suddenly spots a figure approaching them from a distance. She immediately screams that it must be an enemy coming to harm them, but Yuta reassures her, explaining that that's just his neighbor Yon-san. Distracted by her delusions, Mumu doesn't listen to Yuta and prepares to fight the old woman. She nervously prepares for battle as the old woman walks closer and warmly greets Yuta. All of Mumu's courage and battle strength vanish at the approach of the woman as she quickly hides behind Yuta, but Yon-san quickly notices the flustered little girl hiding behind Yuta. She asks who Mumu is, but Mumu is completely stunned and has no idea what to do or say. Without warning, the old woman leans down to gently pat the ancient dragon on the head, calling her an adorable little girl and telling Yuta to cherish her dearly. The old woman gives Mumu a candy and leaves on her merry way. Mumu still can't believe that the woman didn't take the chance to attack the two of them. Mumu softly calls out to Yuta and states that this is no longer that world she once knew. Things have completely changed. She holds on to the candy, seeming completely clueless about the whole situation, and Yuta explains that he has no idea what to say to that, but he tries to comfort her by telling her that this world is not as cruel and scary as she thought it was. Mumu slowly begins to understand and accept this fact as she grasps the old woman's candy close to her heart. The next day, Mumu jumps up as her eyes light up with excitement, and she exclaims that today she will work hard to keep watch over the house. She tries to play it off by saying that she has already done enough to help Yuta and doesn't need to overwork herself going out with him. She happily greets him farewell as she tells him to come home early, and Yuta, who seems to be confused once again by her antics, just gives up and accepts her terms, telling her goodbye. He heads out and realizes that his new ancient dragon friend seems to love the house very much. Curious about his dragon friend, Yuta asks Mumu why she took human form. She quickly begins to act smug about it and teases Yuta, saying that he wants to know that so badly, guess she can't help it. Yuta smiles along, but he recalls that she was the one who told him to ask her anything he wanted to know about her. Suddenly, Mumu gets up and tells Yuta to take a good look at his body, which leaves Yuta confused about her point. She smiles proudly and states that she looks weak in this form, doesn't she? She treats this question as top secret information and states that there is a very special reason for this body of hers and asks Yuta if he'd like to know. Yuta, who is completely invested in her story, says that he would like to know. At his request, Mumu shares the story. She explains that she was sealed away 3 times. Recalling her past glory, she admits to some mistakes and states that she can understand why she was sealed away the first time. She was getting too arrogant after all. She suddenly becomes heated as she exclaims that she will never forgive the second time she got sealed. She angrily proclaims that when she finally got out of the seal, there was a huge group waiting for her to arrive to beat her up. She complains that they didn't even give her a chance to explain herself or say a word, and explains that she thought about the reason for a long time. She finally understood that it must be because she looks too scary. So then, to try to protect herself, she took the form of a weak-looking little girl the next time she came out of her seal. Sadly, for her, the group saw through her disguise immediately and beat her up again. Trying to understand, Yuta asks how they could even figure out that this little girl was the huge dragon, and Mumu explains that it must have been because of her horns and tail, and she still retained even in human form. Trying to console her, Yuta tells Mumu that no matter what happened to her in the past, he thinks she's cute. Seeing through his flattery, Mumu asks him if he's just saying that to make her feel better. Yuta apologizes to Mumu and she looks away with a flustered expression, proclaiming that small compliment like that wouldn't make her happy. She fumbles her words as she clearly tries to hide her happiness. Trying to play it off, Mumu states that she will forgive Yuta for his insolence since he is her master. She quickly jumps into her lap and asks him to pat her head more. Yuta realizes that his new friend seems to be weak to compliments. Mumu seems rather displeased as she pouts and whines. It seems Yuta finally felt bad for Mumu, always walking around in a small slip dress all the time, and ended up getting her some new cloths. Yuta tries to give them to her, but Mumu absolutely refuses to take them, claiming that she doesn't need them and she is already getting enough value from their contract. Trying to convince her, Yuta asks her to think of it as a gift from a friend rather than compensation from her summoning master. At this proposition, Mumu's ears perk up with excitement and she makes a devious face, saying that she can't say no if he puts it like that. She tries on one of the dresses he bought her, but she seems very uncomfortable. Yuta wonders if she dislikes the cloths he got, and she explains that her wings don't fit inside the cloths and she feels quite uncomfortable because of it. She also says that she cloths seem really weak. Yuta asks her what she means, and she explains that the outfit she was wearing before was something she created herself, imitating a saint's robe, which is why it's a strong dress. She says that as a grandiose dragon, she doesn't like things that are weak. Yuta, feeling slightly dejected, silently remarks that the dress he bought looks quite good on her though. Little does he know, he has activated a secret weapon that Mumu cannot survive against, a compliment. Mumu's ears flush up with excitement and she enthusiastically tries on another dress that he bought, smiling happily and asking Yuta if he likes this one too. Yuta excitedly compliments her once again, stating that this one also looks really nice, and Mumu is in complete bliss. Yuta thinks to himself that Mumu is so pure-hearted. After a while, Yuta suggests that they should put the cloths away now, but Mumu is on the floor grasping onto them intensely. She screams at Yuta, exclaiming that he was going to give them to her, wasn't he? Yuta tries to calm her down and explain that he isn't taking them away forever, he just wants to put them in the closet, but Mumu is inconsolable. She sobs on the ground on the thought of her new cloths being taken away like a toddler with his toys. She proclaims that she will never hand them over because these cloths are now her treasures, and Yuta is left helpless without a clue of what to do with this strange and clingy dragon. Yuta excitedly walks over to Mumu, claiming that he found out about her past. She was just chilling on the couch playing with a ball when Yuta suddenly surprised her with the news. Yuta explains that he tried to look it up on the internet and found some stuff out instantly. Yuta excitedly reads the information off of his device, explaining that in the past she used to go by the name Mernvidum Chaos Mumu Tophelia. He asks Mumu if she had a reason for going by such a long and menacing name. Mumu looks away nervously and her tail begins to lightly shake. She softly explains that she did it because it seemed kind of cool. Yuta, excited as ever, seems thrilled to hear about the fact and asks if there was no magical meaning to the name at all, and Mumu embarrassingly says that there wasn't. Feeling curious, Yuta tries to understand more about his new dragon friend and asks her if the name Mumu has any sort of meaning. Mumu thinks to herself that it's just her true name, but recalls that she told her true name to Yuta on their very first meeting. She thinks that that is far too embarrassing for a magnificent ancient dragon like herself to give away her true name to a mere human on their very first meeting. Because of her embarrassment, Mumu lies to Yuta, telling him that Mumu is just like her nickname. Yuta accepts her answer as the truth and continues his curious investigation. Yuta explains that there were also some urban legends that the great dragon Mumu used to give prophecies to the foolish humans. He quickly finds some of these supposed prophecies and excitedly asks Mumu if he can read them. He starts to read out her arrogant proclamations that seem too funny now. Mumu begins to tear up listening to her past embarrassing proclamations, and to prevent her past dealings to be exposed further, she quickly wraps her tail around Yuta's mouth, preventing him from reading it anymore. She whines and complains, scolding Yuta for looking into her embarrassing past like this. She seems to be mad at him and hides under the bed covers, refusing to speak with Yuta as he begs her for forgiveness, but she does not listen. Yuta realizes that his dragon friend has an embarrassing past, even though it sounds quite cool to Yuta. Mumu pouts in displacement and looks away begrudgingly because Yuta dug up her embarrassing past. She runs away to the other room with Yuta helplessly calling after her. She stands in the door looking at him with a whiny face, feeling betrayed by his insensitive actions. The color leaves Yuta's face because of this awkward situation. His one and only friend ever is angry with him and he has no idea what to do. Because Yuta never had any friends, he never had to deal with minor disagreements like this, so now he is totally clueless. Trying to think of what to do, Yuta thinks that only genuine sincerity could solve a dispute like this. He immediately gets on his knees and puts his head to the ground, bowing to Mumu in shame and regret and begging for her forgiveness. Feeling concerned, Mumu rushes to his side and sits down in front of him, asking what he is doing and telling him to stop. Yuta decides to continue being genuine and honestly apologizes for his actions, stating that he wasn't thinking about how she would feel and accidentally ended up making her uneasy. Seeing his sincere actions, Mumu tells Yuta that that's not the case, explaining that she was only embarrassed. Yuta raises his head and nervously asks Mumu if she is really okay, and she exclaims that that's what she just said. Yuta immediately falls back down to the ground, sighing in relief that she is okay. Yuta explains to Mumu that he has never been able to make up with his friends before. Mumu looks at him curiously and asks him what making up is. Yuta reaches out his hand to hold Mumu's hand and explains that when friends make up, they end up getting even closer to each other than before. Mumu smiles contently as Yuta holds her hand. She can't hide her happiness at all and turns into a ball of excitement as she begins to violently shake Yuta's hand up and down. Mumu jokingly remarks that in that case, she should get mad at Yuta more often so that they make up a lot more and become way closer to each other, and Yuta nervously states that he would rather not do that if it can be helped. After all, Mumu's anger can be a little difficult to deal with. Mumu cries out like a little baby, complaining that Yuta is already going to sleep. Yuta explains that humans need their peaceful sleep, but Mumu whines and demands that he plays with her some more. Mumu states that as soon as he goes to sleep, he becomes boring because he doesn't react to anything she does. Yuta notices something weird about her explanation and questions if she has been doing something to him while he sleeps. Mumu's expression quickly changes to shock and she has no idea what to reply. She recalls that one time Yuta was asleep and she was cuddling him. She started to poke and nudge at him, asking him if he was already asleep. She realized that he was totally out, but Mumu would not accept this. She claimed that the night was still young and it was too soon to sleep. She grabbed onto his arm and began to shake it violently, screaming his name to try to make him wake up. Somehow, Yuta slept through it all and Mumu pouts begrudgingly. Suddenly she gets an idea as she is grabbing onto his arm. She takes her arm and puts his hand on top of her head in a patting gesture. Enjoying his head pats, Mumu smiles mischievously as she continues to move his hand on her head. Suddenly, Yuta moves his hand in his sleep and puts it on Mumu's cheek. Startled at first, Mumu sits still in shock but then realizes the gentle warmth of his hand. She smiles contently as she enjoys the rest of the night playing around with Yuta's hand. In the present, when Yuta asked what she has been doing in his sleep, Mumu's face flushes up with nervousness. Not knowing how to justify her antics, Mumu quickly lays down stating that she's going to sleep. Yuta is left asking for answers and imagining what she could possibly be doing while she refuses to answer and goes to sleep. Yuta's dragon friend can really be a handful to deal with. Yuta is lying in bed completely exhausted and flustered. He has caught a cold and he thinks to himself that it's just a cold and he'll get over it, but things are getting out of hand. There is pure chaos in the house because Yuta's dragon friend Mumu has no idea what to do when he is sick. She is crying, screaming and being overdramatic about his condition, constantly asking him if he's okay and wondering what to do. She sobs sitting on the floor next to him and asks who inflicted these wounds upon him, but Yuta tries to explain that it's no one's fault in particular. Unable to handle the stress, Mumu breaks down in a total frenzy, exclaiming that Yuta must not die. Yuta tries to tell Mumu to calm down and tries to explain that he only has a cold and it's nothing to worry about, but Mumu doesn't understand, asking what a cold even is. Mumu helplessly sobs by his side, stating that she only knows how to get rid of poisons and curses, not this cold thing. Mumu suddenly gets an idea and her eyes light up as she asks Yuta if he would like to eat her heart, but he completely refuses. Mumu is distraught and feels useless, thinking that in her current form, eating her heart wouldn't really do much to help him. Yuta tries to reassure Mumu, telling her once again that he is fine. Refusing to see to reason, Mumu uses her magic to help Yuta by wiping it all away. Suddenly a bright flash of light emits from her hands, lighting up the entire night sky. Yuta, scared for his life, cowers behind his hand when the light dies down. Mumu asks him how he feels, but he looks like he has no idea where he even is. Mumu asks Yuta if he's cured now. She goes in to give him a hug and states that it's okay because humans are weak and brittle, but her heart is brittle too. She hugs him tightly, expressing that she's glad. Yuta hugs her back, saying that he is sorry for worrying her and thanks her for curing him. Coincidentally, after this event, the sun got really large due to being hit with magic, but more importantly, Mumu felt a bit relieved. Yuta expresses that his evil dragon friend is a handful to deal with. Mumu falls to the ground in exhaustion and Yuta rushes to grab her and asks what's wrong. Mumu wonders if it's because she used too much magic, but she hopes that it made Yuta happy nonetheless. She faints, smiling helplessly to herself as she wonders that she may have gotten a bit carried away. Yuta begins to wonder what to do. Mumu rests in bed quietly and Yuta frantically runs around the house looking for tea and wonders if tea would even work on dragons. Seeing Yuta in distress, Mumu tells him not to worry and stating that she doesn't need anything, but he tells her to rest up and stay right there. After a while, Yuta tires himself trying to think of a way to help Mumu. He helplessly states that he has no idea what to do to help even though he is her friend. Feeling ashamed, Yuta sincerely apologizes to Mumu for being unable to care for her properly even though she helped him so much. Seeing his compassion, Mumu blushes a bit and asks Yuta if he really cares about him this much. Yuta expresses that he cares about Mumu a lot and she immediately jumps out of bliss and excitement. She throws the blanket away and rushes over to give Yuta a hug. Yuta worriedly asks Mumu if he's okay and she states that she is healed already. She brags to Yuta, asking who he thinks she is. But before long, she faints in his arms as he desperately holds onto her in worry. It seems that she doesn't recover that fast after all, but fortunately she makes a full recovery the next day, feeling completely normal. Yuta prepares to leave the house and he apologizes to Mumu for leaving her alone, explaining that he will have to go away for a day. Feeling nervous about leaving Mumu by herself, he guesses that he will be back by 9 p.m. Despite Yuta's concern, Mumu is completely happy and excited, exclaiming that he has nothing to worry about. Yuta asks her again if she will really be alright on her own, and she reassures him that of course she will be alright. She proclaims that she is an adult too and tells Yuta to leave everything to her. With her confident reassurance, Yuta nervously tells her goodbye and to take care as he leaves the house. Barely a moment goes by with Yuta having left and Mumu helplessly falls to the ground in tears, loudly whining that she is lonely. She goes to lay down on the sofa and tries to distract herself from missing her human friend too much. She brags that she has been alive for hundreds of years, so a day for her should pass in the blink of an eye. Evidently, her tough act doesn't last long as she is left sobbing for Yuta once again after a little while. She eventually falls asleep in that spot. After a while, Mumu is startled awake by a loud noise. She worriedly looks around asking who's there when looks out the window to see the sky being illuminated by a bright light shining down from the heavens. She realizes that it's a thunderstorm outside. She immediately begins to laugh in relief, recalling that a long time ago when she was a magnificent dragon, she used to fly through the thunder clouds like it was nothing. She boasts that lightning doesn't scare her at all because she is so powerful. She wonders if the lightning will start up again when suddenly the electricity goes out with a loud bang. Mumu screams hysterically as she is thrown into complete darkness. She falls down in fright and begins to cry because of the darkness. She calls out for Yuta and suddenly remembers her torment that lasted for hundreds of years when she was sealed away in total darkness. How she cried out for years but no one would listen or respond. Finding herself alone in that darkness once more, Mumu huddles down on the ground and expresses that she is scared of being alone. Suddenly the door swings open and Yuta runs inside completely soaked in rain. He struggles to catch his breath as he apologizes for Mumu for being late when he suddenly finds her in front of him sobbing on the ground. She begins to sob even more when she finally sees Yuta and he runs to her side asking if she is okay. Mumu sobs and asks Yuta where he went. Trying to comfort her, Yuta grabs Mumu's head and holds it to his chest, giving her a warm hug. He apologizes to her for leaving, but she complains that she will never forgive him. Yuta is sitting at his computer talking to his dad. He thanks him for sending the documents related to summoning magic, explaining that they finally came in. After waiting anxiously for days, it's a relief to have the information he needs at his fingertips. Reading the documents on his computer, Yuta nervously asks his father that these papers are publicized right and wonders if this will be okay. The idea of diving into such powerful knowledge makes him uneasy, and he seeks his father's reassurance. His dad reassures him on the phone, and Yuta states that it's a relief his dad is knowledgeable in this field and thanks him for his help, explaining that the documents he sent are really easy to understand. With his father's guidance, the complexities of summoning magic start to unravel, making the impossible feel within reach. Suddenly his dad says something that completely throws him off and he immediately apologizes, stating that he does feel that way about that scroll. The mention of the scroll stirs up a whirlwind of emotions, a reminder of the burden and responsibility that now rests on his shoulders. Yuta calls his dad and says that they haven't talked in a while and apologizes for calling him out of the blue suddenly. The urgency of his situation makes the distance between them feel even greater. Yuta explains to his dad that he made a new friend and wants to help her no matter what. The words tumble out, a testament to the depth of his resolve. Yuta's dad, sitting outside a remarkable building with someone else, smiles contently knowing that his son actually found a friend after all. Despite the gravity of the situation, there's a glimmer of pride in his eyes, a recognition of his son's growth and the strength of his conviction. Mumu is lying unconscious on the sofa when Yuta walks over and notices her. The sight of her prone form sends a jolt of panic coursing through him. Yuta immediately panics when he sees her completely out cold because she doesn't normally need to sleep. In the short time they've known each other, he's come to rely on her constant presence, her unwavering strength. Yuta carefully tries to check up on her, wondering if she's not feeling well. His hands flutter around her, hesitant and afraid, a stark contrast to her usual vibrant energy. Feeling worried, Yuta begins to pat Mumu's head to comfort her and thinks to himself that despite being on the edge in the beginning, he's sitting there rubbing his hand over her head without a worry. The gesture is automatic, a testament to their growing bond and the trust that now exists between them. He watches over Mumu while she rests and thinks that a lot has changed over this short span of time. In the quiet stillness, he reflects on the whirlwind of events that have brought them to this moment. Yuta says that he still can't believe that something like this happened to him, but states that he is still grateful to Mumu. The words barely scratch the surface of the depth of his feelings, the profound gratitude he feels for her presence in his life. Running his fingers through her hair, he notices a scar on her right eye. The sight of it catches him off guard, a hidden vulnerability in the warrior beside him. Yuta realizes that he never noticed this when she was awake, meaning she was hiding it from him. The revelation feels like a punch to the gut, a reminder of the pain and secrets she carries. Yuta recalls Mumu's recollection of all the horrible tortures she went through, sealed away 3 times for hundreds of years. He imagines the agony of those centuries, the relentless loneliness and fear. He suspects that this wound was inflicted on her during that time and begins to worry for her well-being. The thought of her suffering, of the scars she bears both visible and hidden, makes his heart ache. Yuta continues patting Mumu and wonders if he's reading too much into it. Doubt creeps in, a nagging voice whispering that he's overstepping, that he can't possibly understand the depths of her experience. Yuta looks down at Mumu with passionate eyes and claims that he wants to help Mumu no matter what. The words are a vow, a pledge to stand by her side, to face whatever challenges lie ahead together. The humans looked down coldly at Mumu as she was released from her seal. They did not have the slightest hint of mercy as they belittled her for trying to trick them by taking on the form of a little girl. Mumu, helplessly imprisoned by the cruel humans, tries to muster up any words to try to talk to the monsters, but it's useless. They refuse to listen to her, going on about their own self-important plans. The human coldly looks down on Mumu and states that she shouldn't worry herself because they will not kill her. She tried to destroy the world in her rage but ended up helping humanity come together and unite against her. Mumu uses her little strength to try to explain herself, but the human won't listen. He arrogantly tells Mumu that because of her contribution to humanity, he has a request for her. He tells her to continue being an evil dragon seeking to destroy the world so that humankind will always stay united together to overcome such a brutal foe. Suddenly Mumu jolts awake from a nightmare and finds herself being gently held in Yuta's lap. He looks at her nervously and asks if she's doing okay. He pats her head to comfort her, but suddenly she uses her tail to walk the living daylights out of him. She immediately gets up and starts complaining loudly, saying how dare Yuta touch her like that. Yuta tries to explain that he only did it because she looked like she was in pain and he has never seen her fall asleep like that. Mumu finally calms down a bit but still pretends to be angry, telling Yuta to ask for forgiveness. She asks Yuta if he really wants to be forgiven and he says yes, to which Mumu demands that he pat her head one more time and then she'll forgive him. Yuta is slightly confused at her strange demand and she angrily grabs onto him, asking him to just do it already. Yuta gives up and agrees to do it as he sits next to Mumu and gently moves his hand over her head. Mumu smiles warmly and asks Yuta how he could be so gentle. Yuta is surprised by the sudden compliment and asks if Mumu really thinks that. Suddenly a girl appears behind Yuta asking why he always laughs like that. It's a memory of his school life when a girl in his class walked up to him and belittled him, telling him that looking at him grossed her out. A guy sitting nearby joins in, stating that Yuta never complains as if he has no human kindness. Yuta is unable to respond to the bullies and just looks away in complete shock, asking him they really think that. Suddenly, Yuta snaps back into reality when he asks the same thing to Mumu and she proudly proclaims that she absolutely thinks that he is gentle, bragging that since she is the one saying it, it must be true. She smiles wholeheartedly and tells Yuta that he is a great guy. Yuta sits silently, wondering how to even respond to such an earnest dragon girl. Mumu giggles to herself, stating that it makes sense why his hands feel so warm. Suddenly Mumu faints again and Yuta notices that something weird is happening. He lays Mumu down and notices that her limbs are starting to go invisible. Yuta's face twists with anxiety as various thoughts begin running through his head. He recalls reading that this is a sign a summoned beast is disappearing after fulfilling his purpose. He nervously yells out Mumu's name when she opens her eyes. Feeling unusual, Mumu puts her limbs up towards the sunlight and notices that they are going transparent. She suddenly begins to laugh uncontrollably, saying that the time has finally come. Yuta cannot understand what Mumu is thinking at all. Mumu excitedly runs towards Yuta, happily remarking that isn't it amazing how she is turning transparent. She smiles at him optimistically, but Yuta is anxious. He nervously asks Mumu if she is okay and she proudly proclaims that she is totally fine, stating that he doesn't need to worry about her because it won't be long before she vanishes. Yuta is shocked and bewildered, asking why this is happening, and Mumu explains that she told him before that she doesn't have a proper form. She is only a lump of mana walking around, and once that mana runs out, she will disappear completely. She tries to make Yuta feel better, stating that it doesn't have anything to do with the magic he used. She says that this world doesn't have a lot of mana, so she would have run out of it sooner or later. She cheerfully holds his hand, telling him to not make such a sad face and stand up. He stands up and she gives him a hug, burying her face in his shirt. She thanks Yuta, stating that if she hadn't met him, she would have been an evil dragon who died all alone. She warmly grabs onto him, claiming that even if this body of hers vanishes, her feelings will never vanish. Yuta hugs Mumu back and hesitantly asks that this body is her sole right. He grabs onto her tightly and begins to cry, stating that she already knew she was going to die and yet she still came here. She still acknowledged and served Yuta as her master, being a loving, happy and cheerful friend for him despite the dire situation that she herself was in. The two friends continue to embrace each other at the wake of this tragic turn of events. Both of them struggle to hide their tears as they grab onto each other for possibly the last time. Mumu states that the look on Yuta's face says that he is trying to shoulder something again, but there's no need. She jokes that he just got pranked by an evil dragon and nothing else. Yuta, feeling completely powerless, cries out for Mumu and she suggests that she can use the last bit of her mana to remove his memories of her so he doesn't have to suffer. Yuta absolutely refuses as he holds Mumu tight and begs her to not joke about things like that. Mumu is surprised by Yuta's concern and she drops the tough act, warmly smiling and apologizing to Yuta. Mumu's tail begins to vanish completely at the end and she states that she is going to vanish soon, but she needs to tell Yuta everything. She recalls all the pleasant memories the two of them shared and Mumu states that she needs to tell him how much fun she had with him and how blessed she felt during her time together with him. Yuta continues to cry as Mumu states that she is satisfied with this outcome. Suddenly, Yuta grabs Mumu's shoulders tightly and asks why she is smiling when she is going to die. He exclaims that once that happens, they won't be able to see each other ever again. Mumu smiles once again and says that she knows that's why she has to smile. Yuta exclaims that Mumu doesn't have to force herself to smile for his sake. She doesn't need to hide all her pain and sadness and die all alone because they are friends. Suddenly, Mumu looks at Yuta ominously and asks what he knows about her. Yuta states that he knows nothing at all about her, but all this time he has been thinking that something didn't feel right, but now it all makes sense. He looks at Mumu and states that Mumu is far too kind for her own good. Yuta states that she is supposed to be a strong and evil dragon that had to be sealed away 3 times, so she should act scarier and arrogant. He states that a being as grand as her shouldn't even be willing to speak to a puny human like him. She shouldn't try to disguise herself as a human. She was sealed away forever and still tried to get along with the humans that abused her. Images of Mumu's past begin to flash through her mind as she sat all alone helplessly in the darkness with no one to understand her pain. Yuta states that even despite all that, the humans still didn't accept her because she was still in her human form when they met, so that means she still hasn't given up trying to get along with the humans. Yuta gently puts his hand on Mumu's head and promises that he will do anything he can to help, so she shouldn't give up on being alive. Mumu smiles though the pain as tears run down her cheeks. She grabs Yuta's hand, stating that he is too cruel. She helplessly grabs onto his shirt, stating that she keeps telling him that it's okay, but he doesn't listen. She sadly remarks that because Yuta is like this, she has to die all on her own. She says that she can't alter his future with her presence anymore. She holds him close and cries uncontrollably, confessing that she doesn't want to die either. Before he can even respond, she falls down in his lap and Yuta cries desperately. Mumu thinks that she finally got to be friends with Yuta, but now she has to leave him even though she wanted to have so much more fun. Mumu states that she can never have something like that because she is an evil dragon and she did terrible things to humans like him. She apologizes to Yuta and he helpless begs her not to go. Suddenly, Mumu's existence begins to vanish as small gentle flickers of light. Yuta cannot even believe that this is happening and grabs onto Mumu, who is disappearing. He helpless asks her if she is really going to disappear. He states that he can't feel her weight or touch anymore. He cries and wonders why something so horrible is happening. Mumu's essence continues to fade as Yuta demands that she must not die like this. Suddenly Yuta notices particles of light all around him and flowing inside him. He looks down to see that Mumu's light has almost completely disappeared. He suddenly sees a slim line made of light that is emerging from Mumu's body, and Yuta knows exactly what it is. He looks at it intently and realizes that that is Mumu's lifeline. It's growing thinner and thinner, and Yuta knows that if it breaks, everything will be over. The lifeline is about to break away when Yuta desperately jumps into action. He grabs onto Mumu's lifeline with all his might, hoping that he will be able to protect his precious friend like she protected him. Yuta grabs Mumu's lifeline. The pain tells him to let go, but he grabs it harder than before, telling himself that he will never let go of it. Mumu faintly asks Yuta what he's doing. She realizes that Yuta is trying to keep the connection between her and her body in space from severing, but she never taught Yuta that. She tells Yuta to stop and warns him that if he keeps holding on, his body will be reduced to ash. Yuta painfully tells Mumu that he doesn't care, but Mumu reminds him that he will die. Mumu with tears down her eyes begs Yuta to stop and that she wants Yuta to live, but Yuta pats her head and tells her that this is his wish. Mumu laughs hysterically and calls Yuta an utter fool. She then hugs Yuta and the lifeline in his hand begins to fade away. He is shocked. Mumu asks him if his hand has stopped hurting now, and if he can let go of the lifeline and everything will be okay. Yuta lets go and Mumu's life string vanishes. He is shocked, but Mumu confesses that she used Tuya's pure soul as a container for her mana and dirted his fate and soul. Yuta confesses to himself that one day Mumu will understand that he has committed another sin, for which he is sorry. He then looks at her and tells her that he had a hunch that Mumu was thinking of a way to save her life but didn't want to hurt anyone in the process, so she chose to sacrifice herself and end it, but she relied on Yuta. Yuta then appreciates her for relying on him but patting her head. Mumu grabs Yuta harder, calls him a dummy and thanks him. Mumu gets up from the bed excited because she has fully recovered. She tells Yuta, who is sitting next to her, that their fates are now intertwined, which means that they are now even better friends than ever before, and asks him if they both try their best. Mumu calls Yuta and starts swinging her tail and laughs so hard she falls. Worried, Yuta asks her what's wrong. She explains to him that now that she has a container, she can really feel this world and that her body now needs to get used to this world, and she tells Yuta not to be worried. She lays back down on her bed and tells Yuta that she needs to rest her eyes for a bit. Yuta calls her, but she's already asleep. He wonders if she really will be okay. Mumu wakes up feeling weird. She yawns and sees Yuta sleeping with his head on a pillow on the bed but his legs on the floor as if he's been watching her sleep. She tries to wake him up but stabs her hand, but she screams in pain. She lays down and wonders what's going on. She explains that her typical senses were only evil, but now she has the sense of touch, sight, hearing, and pain, which for her is completely and utterly messed up. Dazed Mumu doesn't believe it, so she gives an exposition. The evil dragon known as Miruvitum Chaos Mumu Tophelia, who reigned as the apex of all dragons, the Dragon King, who from the moment she was given life, existed to grow stronger but forced to pay dearly in compensation. Like creatures that live deep underground and give up their sight to heighten their other senses, the Dragon King had given up all her other senses to be unparalleled in strength, but all those scenes have returned to her body now means that she is not the strongest creature in the world anymore, and also that all her senses are exacerbated 100 times more sensitive to what she's used to. Mumu yells that what's important is that she is now close to being a human. Yuta wails up and seeing Mumu fully recovered, he hugs her and tells her how glad he is that she is okay. Mumu on the other hand is using all her senses to enjoy Yuta, emphasizing that even though Yuta was fulfilling before, but now he's just off the charts. Mumu sees Yuta bringing his hand up to pet her. She warns him to not pet her, but when Yuta does it, she tells him that it feels reasonable but to stop. Yuta asks her if she's okay, but Mumu is long gone. Mumu later retells the event, stating it to be a fatal rubbing that rendered the dragon useless and how she barely contained herself. Yuta rushes to his room asking Mumu if she has woken up. Mumu sitting on the bed yawns. Yuta asks if she is alright, but Mumu brings her finger to her head and asks Yuta if he can hear her. She tells him that she was speaking to him from her mind. Yuta tells her that this is transmission magic. Mumu reassures Yuta and asks him about Yuta, mentioning that he thinks a lot about her. She asks him if he never wondered or found it odd how they could talk without any obstacles. Yuta asks her if was it due to magic, and she replies to Mumu. She tells him that she wanted to communicate with humans, so she spent an eternity perfecting her magic transmission to such a degree that she could do so just by thinking about it. Yuta, impressed, praises her, but she bursts his bubble and reveals that she can only send transmissions now and not read his mind. She tells him that she remembers some of the words she pulled from Yuta's heart, but that is all there is to it. Yuta asks her if she is fine, and Mumu responds that this is not the problem. Yuta looks at her and she says with tears down her eyes that the problem is her being a puny little dragon now, and for dragons power is everything. She further tells him that from the moment a dragon is born it strives to get stronger and gain powers. But now because she took her magic for granted, she is unable to talk and her body is now close to that of a human. She sits down and tells Yuta that she has no right to be with him. Yuta, being cuddled by Mumu, asks that she is being a bit too clingy today. Yuta asks Mumu for some space, but she sniffs Yuta and tells him that right now she is enjoying life. Yuta feels good that Mumu is feeling better, but he doesn't like the clinging. He asks Mumu to stop. Mumu asks him about the downside of all this and tells him that she just wants to memorize his scent. Yuta yells that he doesn't like it, but to no avail. Mumu compliments Yuta's scent, telling him that she thinks it's not that bad. Yuta tells her that his smelling good or bad has nothing to do with it. Mumu emotionally blackmails Yuta, inquiring if he doesn't wish for Mumu to rely on him, and asks him to let her continue. Reluctantly, Yuta agrees and gives her the go, but he is covered in a sweat and he feels that Mumu's body getting way too hot. He recalls their previous sessions but remembers nothing about her getting this warm. He shrugs it off by saying that it happened because Mumu now has a physical body. He looks at Mumu and she's covered in sweat too. What's better than 1 glass of ice water? 2 glasses of ice water. They both chug it down like sub-Saharan camels on a hot day. Mumu cannot believe the amazing taste of it. She asks Yuta if he feels the same way, but Yuta tears up because it was just a glass of water and Mumu is so happy. Mumu calls Yuta a crybaby. She's about to ask Yuta for another cup but her stomach groans. She feels it. Yuta realizes that Mumu has to go to the washroom. He looks at Mumu and asks that maybe it could be that she needs to use the toilet, which Mumu straight up declines, reassuring Yuta that a great and powerful dragon like herself does not need to excrete. Yuta tells her not to force herself to hold it in. Mumu yells that she would never, but she is interrupted by Yuta, who asks her to use her magic and read his mind. She complies but is humiliated to see that Yuta was thinking about how to use a toilet. Yuta tells her that using the toilet isn't difficult. But Mumu rejects his advice and screams never. Mumu fails to hold it in and rushes to the toilet, slams the door shut and gets to work. Yuta stands outside to assist her if need be. Mumu walks out sad and traumatized. She walks to Yuta's room, lies on his bed and cannot believe that she has become an embarrassing baby dragon. She tells Yuta that she has no pride left. Yuta knows what's important, so he asks her if she washed her hands, which catches Mumu off guard and she yells that of course she did. A guest arrives outside their door, hearing their shenanigans, is surprised but reveals that it was Yuta who called for her and that she wishes to see one hell of a specimen. Mumu asks Yuta why she won't let her sniff him, and she issues an ultimatum that she will not allow Yuta to sniff her if he doesn't let her sniff him. Yuta tells her that he prefers it like that. The guest reveals that she is Yuta's sister. She tells Mumu not to be scared of her, but Mumu cowers behind Yuta. Mumu asks Yuta if the guest is his sister. Yuta says yes and that she was born before him. Mumu asks if that means her sister is more awesome than him. Yuta agrees, and it doesn't take long for Mumu to imagine a graph of awesomeness, with her being the least awesome followed by Yuta and the most awesome being Yuta's sister. Yuta's sister interrupts because she finds this situation quite intriguing. She reveals that she has been letting Yuta live in her house rent-free, and after what feels like an eternity to her, Yuta finally calls her with an interesting story that made her come to him immediately. She expresses her concern that her younger brother is now abducting young girls. Yuta defends himself by telling his sister to look at Mumu, but her sister denies seeing anything out of the ordinary. In her eyes, she is just like other normal people. Yuta explains that Mumu has horns and tails like a dragon, but her sister tells him that she sees nothing, but if it's something on her end she would love to look at the depth of it. She further adds that the more mysteries there are, the better it is for her because she's a researcher after all. Yuta's sister giggles and tells Mumu to show her true self. Poof! The horns and tail appear. Mumu apologizes for looking so weak. Yuta's sister starts walking towards them like a zombie. It scares Mumu and she hugs Yuta, who reassures her that she will probably be fine. Yuta's sister grabs Mumu and lifts her in the air. Mumu screams for Yuta to save her. With a pleasant smile, Yuta's sister looks at Mumu with adornment. She calls Mumu wonderful, hugs her and tells her that she knew she would love Mumu the instant she heard about her. Yuta's sister tells Mumu that she will love her till the day they both live. Mumu's screams for help are now louder than before. Yuta tells Mumu that he can't go against his older sister. Mumu, now given up the hope of escape, stops trying. Yuta's sister pets Mumu's head and theorizes that Mumu was summoned here to their side. Yuta questions his sister about their side. She tells him that he felt Mumu in an unsafe environment and pulled her into a safe environment and brought her into solid existence. She explains that with this determination Yuta almost slipped into the supernatural world himself. She then reveals that his kind actions would have led him into another supernatural world where he would pass away immediately. Her sister then tells him that in all honesty he should be dead. She calls him dumb and tells him that he is the only one in Tanaka's family, so seeing him like this is a relief. She then reveals that Yuta is only alive because Mumu let it be that way. She then, as a sister, thanks Mumu for looking after her brother, telling her that her king wishes has saved Yuta. Mumu is flattered, so naturally she throws a compliment back at Yuta's sister, who says that she wants to pet Mumu forever. Mumu hugs Yuta's sister and then her protective instincts become stronger.